We're live.
Well, okay.
Week 8. Welcome.
I was going to say we're looking a bit dark, but I think we're okay.
It's just the shading. And we've already, look at this. Liam, welcome. John, you guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, we love it that you guys are here each week. Thank you.
It is. That's really great.
Yes, it's super cool.
Okay, we're week 8.
We are week 8.
You can do the stuff.
All right, I'm gonna kick all this off. So week 8, we're going to be talking about the building of the blockchain, pretty much, and the mining process. It's going to be about 45 to 50 minutes of pretty much just talking. We do go over a couple of websites, but it's interesting if you want to understand why it's all secure. So we're going to talk about the other things. If you are new here and you want to know more about this, go to our website, and unfortunately, once we've finished this, you won't be able to sign up here anymore. And that's coming up really soon. I see I've made a mistake on my website today, but that's okay. So in the future, there will be a YouTube playlist. And if you go to our YouTube? If you go to our if you go to our YouTube from our website, thank you, Nicki, you will be able to find our playlist for this in the future, and we'll probably put the playlist on here somewhere. So if you come here late in the game, it's okay. This is Seed Signer. Seed Signer is one of our 3 awesome partners who got on board with us and wanted to give you guys something for turning up and doing this. So Seed Signer hardware, this is all open source. The case is 3D printable. The hardware is Raspberry Pi. The software is open source. They can pre-build it for you, or you can build it yourself. But this is awesome. It works with one of the favorite privacy wallets of all time, which is Sparrow Wallet. Sparrow Wallet. They work with other wallets as well, but if you want a powerful privacy-based wallet, that is awesome. We love it. I have got one, but I haven't used it yet. I thought I'd put it on the table here. I have put it on the table here. And then CryptoTag. CryptoTag is actually super helpful and super useful. This is a Seed Signer, which I'm flashing in front of the screen. CryptoTag is great for backing up your seed phrase and hardware your passphrase, and these are reasonably indestructible. So if it's on paper, it potentially get burnt, discolorize, and lose the text, or get wet, go soggy. One copy disappears. This is a lot more durable, and you can hide it in more places. It's really interesting. We've had friends who have this device, and they do enjoy it, and they got multiple devices, so check out the website. Also, the Bitbox 02, this is the Bitcoin-only version, which we're going to look at down here. So they do have 2 versions. Bitcoin Diploma, you want to grab the Bitcoin one. So this is also a hardware device. It's built in Switzerland. So it's good quality hardware and software that is built by quality manufacturers. It's also worth checking out. Pretty cool. So thank you to those guys for turning up and being part of this. We reached out to quite a few people, and
Really appreciate it.
Yep, these are the people who came back and said, we want to support the people who do the My First Bitcoin Diploma. So that's cool. Thank you. Alrighty.
That's right.
We're gonna get into it. Let's get into chapter 8. James is just talking because he likes the sound of his voice now. I'm just gonna quickly turn on some chats. We'll just say we got Liam. Hello, sexy people. Or you're awesome, Liam. I love it. And John, hey, sexy man. I don't know what's going on in this chat. John Bon Jovi, awesome. And Living on a Prayer, you guys are awesome. And Hannah, welcome, Hannah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Hannah. We're looking forward to it. So we're going to get stuck into this.
Right. Chapter 8, Building the Chain of Security, Understanding the Process of Bitcoin Mining and its Role in the Blockchain. So it's reasonably long today, but lots of reading.
Largely lots of reading. All right. Yeah. What is Bitcoin mining? Bitcoin mining is a process of adding transaction information to Bitcoin's public journal and past transactions of a blockchain. This ledger of past transactions is called the blockchain, as it is a string of blocks. This chain serves to validate the transactions of all those other networks as having occurred. Bitcoin nodes use this technology chain to distinguish a genuine Bitcoin transaction from efforts to respend coins which may have already been spent somewhere else. Something I actually want to mention, we do actually have an updated version of this, and we're going to say a couple of things a little bit differently when we get further on inside it. You can go to the GitHub page and download the latest version when it comes out. So I will do my best to update the links in here, but my recommendation is to go to the GitHub page and download the latest version when it's updated.
Yeah, it's not updated yet.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Okay, uncovering the gems of the blockchain. Meet the miners and the mining process. Miners are bookkeepers. In centralized systems, accountants get paid by companies to keep track and maintain the accuracy and integrity of their financial records. Similarly, miners are paid in Bitcoin for their work in verifying and adding transactions to the blockchain, helping to keep the network secure and running smoothly. This job involves the use of computational power and specialized hardware. The objective of mining is to add new blocks to the blockchain and maintain its security, decentralization, and long-term viability.
So the little information box, miners gather unconfirmed transactions and form a block, then embark on a search for the valuable key that will secure the block's place in the blockchain.
The key is a valid block hash, which is hidden among billions of others and can be only unlocked by a specific key set by the network. So imagine a giant haystack filled with millions of keys, each representing a unique block hash. The network has a set of specific key that will unlock a valuable prize. Miners search through the haystack, trying each key in the lock, but only one miner will be lucky enough to find the correct match. The first miner to find the correct block hash broadcasts it to the network along with the block of transactions. The other miners then verify the solution to ensure it fits the lock correctly. If the solution is accurate, the block is added to the blockchain, creating a secure and public ledger. For their hard work, miners are rewarded for their efforts in two ways: block rewards and transaction fees. Block rewards are newly generated Bitcoin that are released into circulation with each block added to the blockchain. Transaction fees, on the other hand, are small amounts of Bitcoin that users pay to have their transactions processed more quickly and prioritized in the block by the miner. Miners are free to choose which transactions to include in the block they mine, and they often prioritize those with the highest transaction fees. And we actually notice that at the moment, don't we, with the ordinals, and our transaction fees have had to be bumped up.
Yeah, hasn't been too bad. But yes, we've definitely noticed that if you want to get things done in a certain amount of time, but there's also other methods to the Bitcoin evolves slowly. A lot of people complain that it's not fast enough, but there's a reason it's slowly, and that's to make sure that too much doesn't change in a short period of time, which could break things faster. All right, so the dynamic reward system of Bitcoin mining: block rewards, transaction fees, and halvings. Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin, came up with a smart solution for distributing new Bitcoin via a block reward system in a decentralized manner. We have an information bubble. The Bitcoin supply schedule was his plan for the creation and release of new Bitcoin into the circulation, which is designed to maintain the scarcity of Bitcoin over time. In the early days of Bitcoin, miners were awarded 50 Bitcoin for each block they mined, and this block reward serves as financial motivation for miners to invest in powerful hardware and electricity for their mining operations. However, to control the supply of Bitcoin and maintain stability in the network, the block reward halves approximately every 210,000 blocks. This process, known as the halving, reduces the amount of new Bitcoin released into circulation and continues to incentivize miners to secure the network and ensures its decentralization. And you'll notice on the right-hand side here, we have a graph. So you've got 2009 starting at 0. and we've got 2013, and along the bottom they got 210 blocks, and up to that point they were releasing 50 BTC per block. So on the left, it's climbing up as to the total amount of BTC in circulation. So by 2010, we had 10.5 million BTC already in circulation, which is pretty much half of the supply. Sorry, not 2010, in 2013, half of the supply in the first 4 years. But because it's like an exponential number, this will actually go out for 120 years. All right. So we'll just quickly look at where we are now. So we're in 2023, which is, if you follow this line up, it's 6.25 BTC per 10 minutes. All right.
Now, I'm going to have a question. Now, my knowledge is not nearly as advanced as James's, and I need to ask this question. So when they say that the miners got 50 BTC per block, that wasn't actually theirs.
Yes.
It is theirs, but then it was only 50 BTC per block that was actually that was mined.
Yes.
Okay, so then their 50 BTC they then sell.
If
or it's available, or they can just hold on to it.
Yes.
So as it gets harder and harder, won't they just keep hold of it?
Yes.
So, yeah, okay. Cool. All right. So it's going to be less available for people.
Yes. This is how scarcity works.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So the miners are going to get more and more. Well,
they get less and less.
But they're getting less and less, but they will be more likely holding it, not selling it.
Yes. So that is one of the reasons why people talk about the pressure that actually comes on the industry in terms of mining. A lot of people actually analyze how much miners may have actually collected, and then how much they, some of them will actually get funding from investors to pay for their electricity and their hardware, and they will keep the Bitcoin, and they won't sell the Bitcoin until they either think the market conditions are favorable for that, or they're forced to cover expenses.
Okay.
They keep it on the books as an asset generally.
All right. Okay.
But yes, you're right. The scarcity model is what is being used to try and incentivize people to hold more and sell less and find other ways to fund it. Yeah. Let's say you have a jar that can only hold 1,000 pieces of candy. Every day you add 10 pieces of candy to the jar. This is how new Bitcoin are created and added to the supply through the process of mining. However, after every 4 years, the amount of candy you can add to the jar is cut in half. So after 4 years, you would only put 5. After 8 years, you'd put 2.5, and so on. This is like the halving of Bitcoin, which slows down the rate at which new Bitcoin are created. The ultimate goal is to maintain scarcity and limit the total number of Bitcoin to 21 million units, just like the jar can only hold a limited amount of candy. And then we've got another graph here on the right, which is trying to demonstrate what's happening in the opposite direction. So coins to be mined, you've got 21 million, and people were getting 50 BTC. And then this, the stack is showing you how many coins were sort of coming out. So less coins, 50%, 50%, 50%, and it will keep being reduced. All right. Building the chain. The halving process is similar to how gold miners have a limited supply and eventually become harder to find. Today, the Bitcoin protocol releases 6.25 new BTC to miners approximately every 10 minutes when a block is mined. The table shows details of the next halving events for Bitcoin, including the percent of total supply that will be mined by that date. The expected date of the next halving event, and the block number at which the halving event is expected to occur. So there are actually block halving calculators out there, which are pretty cool. I should have pulled one of those up. Would have been good to have a link here. Fourth halving. So the fourth halving will be in 2024 at block 840,000, and the block reward will be cut down to 3.125 BTC every 10 minutes. the total percentage of Bitcoin that will have been mined will be 96.875%. And you can see how it's just slowly creeping up at this point. All right.
Okay, circulatory supply refers to the amount of Bitcoin that is currently in circulation and available for trading. This measurement represents the total number of coins that have been mined and are in circulation at any given time, excluding any coins that may be locked up or lost forever.
All right. So we have another graph here trying to give us a visual idea of the things that are happening in terms of, all right, that's what I'm looking for. Things that are happening in terms of the remaining supply. So the red line here is getting less, which is the remaining supply to be mined. And then we have that yellow or orange line, which I believe is meant to be this one, is the amount that's actually in the marketplace and available to people. And then the
most is the percentage total.
Yeah, so the percentage total is the purple, but you'll notice that the price is generally following the circulating supply. And what I'm going to do is I went to quickly grabbed a Bitcoin halving countdown clock. So NiceHash is a mining operation, and they offer, I think, hardware and software services. But it's saying that it's 1 year, 37 days, and 12 hours and 10 minutes. And they give you some stats. So this day actually shifts slightly because it's not every block is mined literally every 10 minutes. It's approximate based on the algorithm, and we'll see how that changes coming up soon. All right.
The inflation rate is the rate at which the circulating
supply of Bitcoin
what were you pointing to?
is increasing over time. We're changing the word.
Okay. So supply.
So this is the Bitcoin Diploma.
Bitcoin is increasing over time. Expressed as a percentage of the total supply, this rate is calculated as the difference between the circulating supply and the total maximum supply, 21 million, divided by the total maximum supply and multiplied by 100.
So in the updated document that we have, they've removed these references to Ethereum and cryptocurrencies, and they've stuck it to be Bitcoin only, because the diploma is meant to be about Bitcoin. If anyone wants to study something else, they can go study something else. It's not necessarily relevant for what's happening in here. So that's why I mentioned at the start that there is going to be an updated version coming out soon. They're working on it. We've got a draft. It's happening. During each halving event, the block reward for miners is reduced, lowering the issuance rate of new Bitcoin. As a result, the inflation rate of Bitcoin decreases over time, potentially leading to an increase in the price of Bitcoin. The reduced supply, combined with increasing demand as people learn about it, can drive up the price of Bitcoin. This not only benefits early adopters of the technology, but it also serves as an incentive for miners to continue to secure the network and contribute their computing power and resources.
The vital task of Bitcoin mining, securing the blockchain. What is a valid block hash in Bitcoin? A block hash serves as a unique identifier for each block in the blockchain and helps detect any attempts to alter past transactions. The blocks in the blockchain store transactions and form a chain of blocks, starting from the Genesis block to the most recent one, creating a public and transparent record of all transactions. The block hash links each block to the previous one, allowing anyone to view the history of any transaction and ensuring the accuracy and security of the data stored on the network. Just like a fingerprint identifies an individual, the block hash identifies each unique block in the blockchain.
So we've got a couple of graphics here, and the blocks are linked together by enforcing a specific relationship between blocks. That is, a block must contain a fingerprint, which is a hash value of the data of the previous block. A hash function can condense arbitrary message, the block information, to a fixed size, e.g. 160 bits, and produces a fingerprint of the message. And for the people who followed along last week, you remember we actually went through a hashing algorithm. So we use SHA-256. And if you go back, you can actually find the websites that will allow you to basically upload any file, and you will always get a string that is the same length. And that string represents that file in its specific state. And that's basically what they're doing here. The first ever block of Bitcoin containing total of 50 Bitcoin was mined by the creator of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto.
So while a block hash can be used to verify the integrity of the data in the block, it does not reveal all of the information within the block. The information within the block can only be accessed by using a cryptographic keys required to decode it. The block hash simply provides a means of verifying that the data in the block has not been altered. The race to mine a block. So miners engage in a competition to uncover the block hash that aligns with the target, a special number set by the network. The miner who successfully discovers the correct block hash is granted the opportunity to add that block to the blockchain and assign it with the corresponding hash ID. This solution serves as validation for the block's authenticity. Mining can be compared to a race where the goal is to reach the finish line as quickly as possible. The difficulty target in the race is adjusted periodically, making it harder to mine a block as more miners join the race. So let's say the target set by the network in the blockchain is 1,000. The miners would have to use their computers to search for a special number called the block hash that is lower than 1,000. The first miner to find the block hash that is lower than 1,000 gets to add a group of transactions to the blockchain and is rewarded with some Bitcoin.
The difficulty level is a measure of how difficult it is to find a valid block hash that meets the target set by the network. It is adjusted periodically to ensure that blocks are added to the blockchain at a consistent rate. The difficulty level is expressed as a number, and the higher the difficulty, the more difficult it is to find a block hash that meets the target. And this is actually what I was talking about before when I was saying that the 10 minutes isn't like a set to a clock. It actually moves a little bit based on how quickly people do or don't solve the problem. So if there's less miners on the network, it may take longer. If there's more and powerful miners on the network, they may find a block sooner and faster. And that is why the network adjusts it periodically.
You can sort of see there's two samples of difficulty. There's a difficulty level 1 and a difficulty level 2. And the number is the same, it's just the zeros in front.
Yep.
There's more zeros in front for a difficulty level 2.
So in this example, hash number 2 has a higher difficulty than hash number 1 because it requires more zeros at the beginning. This means that it is harder to find a block hash that meets the target set by the network when the difficulty level is higher. Finding a valid block hash involves a lot of computer work.
By finding a valid block hash, a miner demonstrates that they have done the work required to add the new block to the blockchain and to get paid in Bitcoin for the effort. Proof of work, POW, is the method Bitcoin uses to validate transactions and add new blocks to the blockchain. So that's what we're doing now. We're doing proof of work to know that we're doing the first bit.
Yeah, and we're storing it on YouTube and Rumble.
Yeah.
Proof of work keeps the blockchain safe by making it difficult for anyone with malicious intentions to take control. The target is adjusted to aim for one block to be mined every 10 minutes, making the network even safer as the target becomes harder to reach. As an example, the target set by the network for mining a specific block could be this random string we have here, which means that the first miner to find a hash with 8 leading zeros will achieve this target, thus being allowed to add the block to the blockchain and will receive compensation in Bitcoin. And so this is the role. We've got a diagram here of the role of the miners, and we're going to step through the roles here. Miners actually have two tasks in a blockchain network. One, they verify the transactions, and two, when they verify it, they add the new block to the existing chain. They collect unconfirmed transactions into their memory pool, select a subset of those to include in their candidate block, and then search for the block hash. So I'm actually going to quickly cut to the mempool, which we talked about last week, and I'm not going to cut to that really quickly. One moment. I just need to change this to do that, and now we're going to quickly cut to the mempool. And so in the mempool here, we can see these are blocks that are waiting on the left, the yellow ones, and the purple ones have been processed. And what's really interesting is if we click on this one, this yellow one, what's happening is inside it, we can see all the transactions that have been allocated. So we just talked about select a subset of these transactions in their candidate block. So the miners go and grab a whole heap of transactions that they want to add if they guess what the block hash actually is. Let me cut back. And now that's frozen on me, so I'm going to unfreeze that for everybody as well. Do you want to start reading it?
Multiple miners can be working on creating new blocks simultaneously. The first miner to discover a block hash that meets the target set by the network announces it to be the network. And the other miners then check the transactions in that miner's candidate block to make sure they are valid. If the transactions are indeed valid, the block is added to the blockchain. The other blocks created by the other miners at the time are not added and are discarded. This process helps maintain consensus within the network and prevent double spending.
A candidate block is a block of transactions that is being considered for addition to the blockchain but has not yet been added. Dissecting the block. A blockchain is made up of blocks similar to pages in a ledger that store new transactions. Each block has a header with a summary of the data, a link to the previous block, and a unique number called a nonce, or a number used once. That's what a nonce is. And a few other details. Miners' task is to correctly complete the header information when creating candidate blocks. The organization of transactions. Miners must arrange the transactions in their candidate blocks in a specific format, where only some of the information is included in the header.
Lightning moment. Transactions form the backbone of the Bitcoin network and are efficiently and securely organized through the use of the Merkle trees. These trees condense large amounts of data into a compact representation, improving the overall security and efficiency of the network.
Okay, so you'll notice in the Merkle tree diagram on the right-hand side here, they actually, like, each one's a hash. So instead of, let's just say each block was unfortunately gigabytes in size, what they can then do is they can compress it down to a hash of whatever it was, 168 bytes of data. And then instead of storing all the gigabytes, you could just store the hashes and basically abandon the past data or archive it and reference it later. Hope that makes sense. It's a bit of a tricky one to get your head around. The Merkle root hash, which is the data included in the header, is a single hash value that acts as a digital fingerprint for the transaction in a block. This allows for efficient verification of transactions without having to examine each one individually, making it an important component of the security and scalability of the Bitcoin network. If a transaction is included in a block, its hash will be included in the Merkle tree. Merkle root hash. If any part of the data changes, the final code will be different, making it easy to detect any malicious changes to the data. This helps to maintain privacy and protect sensitive information contained within each transaction on the network. If a hacker tries to alter a single character in a transaction, the subsequent block verifications will fail as each block depends on the information from the previous block. The Merkle root acts as a secure chain that links all the transactions in a block, ensuring the accuracy and integrity of the data on the network. One of the main reasons, like you might be asking why they do this, part of it is efficiency, but part of it is also security. And what that means is, like, it's the transaction actually gets handed to a number of parties along the way, and it's making sure that nobody tries to change anything in between, because maybe harder to detect the change by checking all the data each time than just using the hash. Like, the hash makes it very easy to know if anything has been changed.
Mm-hmm. A coin-based transaction in Bitcoin is a special type of transaction included in every block of the blockchain. It serves two purposes. First, it rewards the miner who successfully mined the block. And second, it provides an address to receive transaction fees as a commission.
This transaction is also included in the Merkle tree. Unlike other transactions, the coin-based transaction does not have an input, as it generates new coins through the software algorithm. Instead, it creates a new unspent transaction output, or a UTXO. We did UTXOs, was it last week or the week before? Maybe the week before.
Yeah.
I think it was 2 weeks ago. We did UTXOs, if you want to read up on what that is. But they're basically brand new addresses that have Bitcoin inside, which can be used as input for future transactions. The building blocks of a block, understanding the block header in blockchain.
A block header is like the cover of a book. It provides a summary of its content and important details of the block.
The block hash. The block's valid unique code by which it is identified. A block hash can be used to verify the consistency of information in a block each time. Or the information in it is checked. That came out a bit funny. Version. This is like a label that tells you what version of the software the person who created the block used. So, just as background information, not everybody has to run the exact same version of Bitcoin, like the core software. Every node can run a slightly different version if they want. And this is also how people vote for an upgrade. And that's why the version number is important. Previous block hash. This is the valid block hash for the block that came before the one you're looking at. It makes sure that the blocks are in the right order and that no one can change the previous blocks without it affecting the current and all blocks that come after it. And then we actually have an image here of the block, the information, and a pretty little diagram to try and explain it. There's lots of nice colors, but it's all basically just letters and numbers because it's largely hashes. So we've got a hash, and we've got a Merkle hash, and then we have a timestamp, and the bits will be the size, and the nonce is the unique number that's given to it, which will only be used once.
Then the bits, no, you're going to read about
Sorry, the bits, I got it wrong. It's not the size, it's how hard it was to make this block. Okay. Merkle root hash. So we've got SHA-256, and then inside that we've got hash and an H, and we've gone and compressed all the information inside this SHA-256 hash. This updates specific UTXOs on the chain. Time. This is the time when the person who created the block started working on it. Bits. This is like a code that tells you how hard it was to make this block. It is also called the target value. And the nonce. A nonce is a unique number used by miners to create a new block in a blockchain. miners try different nonces until they find one that gives them the correct hash value for the block, which proves that they did the necessary work to validate the block and to add it to the blockchain. All right. The nonce quest, finding the magic number in the blockchain race. In the world of blockchain, each block has unique information and security measures in place to prevent tampering. One of these measures is the nonce, a number used once to create a unique candidate block hash. So, yep, sorry. No.
Okay. So when a miner is trying to add a new block to the blockchain, they need to find the right nonce that will produce a hash value that meets the target set by the network. This is done by trying different nonce values and running them through the hash function until the correct one is found.
So we've got a bit of a diagram on the right-hand side here where they're running. You can see you got the built it all together. So you got the block header with the information in it, and then they've got the transactions that they're stacking inside it, and then yeah. All right. Remember that hash functions are highly sensitive to any changes in the input. And last week, remember, we had the word hello, well, the two words hello world, and we changed the capital of the W, and it completely changed the hash, but you wouldn't know. And we also put a large and a small file in there, and we saw that you wouldn't know. There was no indication of what the change was, which means that even a small change in the input will result in a completely different output. So by using a different nonce value, miners can ensure that each block they mine has a unique hash value. So it's kind of like salting the hash as well. And salt is what's used to make sure that things are always going to be unique, and it's just like a random amount that you just throw in. A nonce is just one of the components in the block header, along with other important information such as the timestamp and the previous block hash. Once all of the information in the block header has been hashed together, it creates a candidate block hash. The miner who finds the hash value that meets the target set by the network is the one who wins the race and gets to add the block to the blockchain. As we see below, for block number 7, my first Bitcoin, or mi primer Bitcoin, was rewarded 1 BTC for calculating the correct block hash required by the network at the time 21/1/23. In addition, my first Bitcoin collected fees from the transactions included in the block. The nonce that finally produced the winning hash was 354. So this is a made up diagram and image that they've got here, but it's just to demonstrate what's happening. So we've got a little demonstration down here of the process flow. So a new transaction is broadcast to the blockchain. A number of transactions are then selected to put inside a block. So the block will be hashed, and it's turned into a nice short number. And the puzzle, so then what happens is once they've put all that information together, they then submit it to the network to ask if it solved the problem. If it does solve the problem, the block gets added to the blockchain, and the miner will receive the reward after several confirmations. If that hash containing all of this information doesn't meet the answer that they're looking for, basically they need to do it all again. They need to recompile the transactions with a new nonce and create a hash and submit it again and see if it does or doesn't meet it, and it goes around in a circle. Building the chain of security. I keep reading those headers.
Rehashing the hashes, no pun intended. So how long does it take miners to discover a valid hash? And how quickly can they modify the nonce values during their calculation process? In the example below, it took a miner, it was 1 billion, 6 million, and
over 1 billion.
Over 1 billion iterations to find a hash value with the required number of zeros. The miner who succeeded in finding the right nonce value added the block to the blockchain, forming a secure and unalterable part of the chain.
So we've just got another diagram here. These diagrams aren't super interesting or exciting, but I think they're just demonstrating the data that's going in, and then that they're hashing it, and these are the outputs, and they're looking for the right answer. It's quite hard to see. That one's got a lot of zeros in the front, and I think that's the point that they're trying to get across here. So this one on the left has a nonce of 1, and it has no zeros at front. And this one has 1.6 billion nonce, and it's got a lot of zeros at the front. And I'm assuming that the green means that it was good and accepted. The hash rate is a measure of the computational power of the network and the speed at which miners can make nonce calculations, which are used to find the correct block hash.
The more computational power a miner has, the faster they can make these calculations, which can give them an advantage in the mining process. However, as the network's hash rate increases, the difficulty of mining new Bitcoin also increases, making it more challenging for all miners to find the correct block hash. Just like athletes upgrade their equipment to run faster, Bitcoin miners invest in specialized computer hardware to increase their hash rate and mine blocks more efficiently. The more resources they invest in, the better their chances of reaching the finish line first. Hash rates can be compared to the speed of the runner. The more powerful the miner's machine and the higher the hash rate, and the faster they can mine. However, just like in a race, having a high speed does not guarantee a win if the difficulty target has just been adjusted to a higher level. Miners must constantly upgrade their equipment and improve their hash rate to stay ahead of the competition and have a chance of mining a block and winning the race.
The process of finding the correct hash value by changing the nonce is what is called mining.
So when we talk about individual miners and the entire network size, we use different SI preferences, which can be confusing. The main hash denotions are as follows. Bitcoin mining machines hash in terahash per second. The network's total hash rate is described in exahash per second.
And then we've basically got it's kind of like
breakdown.
Like grams, kilograms, and tons. That's basically what's happening, but it's to explain these numbers getting bigger each time. So 1 hash, 1 kilo hash, mega hash, gigahash, terahash, petahash, exahash, and I'm sure they'll need another word. I don't know if they've invented that word yet, but I'm sure they'll need another word for the next one.
Yeah. Wow.
So the Bitcoin block hashing, they've got a breakdown of how they're building the hash to go into the blockchain and the network.
The block hash can be referred to as the proof of work. In summary, every 10 minutes or so, miners enter into a race to find a valid block hash. They begin taking all the data from their candidate blocks, which is summarized neatly in the block headers, double hashing it into a single hash and comparing the output to a target hash value set by the network. If the block hash produced is too high, the miner adjusts the nonce and tries again, repeating this process trillions of times per second until one lucky miner finally finds a hash that meets the network's target.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see here, we've also got a Coinbase transaction in the bottom. That is the reward that will go out if this is successful. We've got all the zeros at the start, which is what we're talking about, the difficulty, and there's our nonce difficulty there. All right, building the chain. No matter how little or how much mining power is applied, the average block is mined every 10 minutes.
So when the total hash rate decreases, the difficulty level decreases to make it easier for miners to mine new Bitcoin. This helps to keep steady the rate at which new Bitcoin are mined. The difficulty adjustment is done using a formula that takes into account the average time it took to mine the previous 2016 blocks. If the average time to mine 2016 blocks takes less than 14 days, the difficulty level is increased. If the average time to complete 2016 blocks takes more than 14 days, then the difficulty level is decreased. So this is where you're saying they're trying to keep it. Yeah.
Correct. And so every 14 days, they take a look at how quickly the miners are or are not solving the problems. And if they're solving the problems on average less than 10 minutes, then they will make the network will make the algorithm easier to solve. And if it's taking them less, that will make the network harder, the problem harder. If it's taking them longer, it'll make the problem easier. I'm sorry, I want to share something when we get to the end. I'm going to share a video that we watched this week because we're reading through this, made me think about it. All right. The issuance rate refers to the rate at which new coins are being added to the circulating supply, often through mining. It's pretty much only through mining. This rate can be impacted by various factors, including changes in network hash rate, the number of blocks mined, and halving events, which reduce the number of coins that can be mined per block. 8.5, step-by-step process of mining a block. So this is, I think we're actually starting to get pretty close to the end. I think.
Yeah, that's 6 pages.
Yep. New transactions are broadcast to the network. They are picked up. They are verified by the nodes. 2, transactions are collected from the unconfirmed transactions in the mempool. Transactions with higher fees are generally prioritized. These transactions are then organized in a Merkle tree and included in a candidate block along with the previous block's hash, a timestamp, and a nonce. 4, miners compete to solve a mathematical puzzle based on the information in the block, including the transactions and a random number. 5, the puzzle involves finding a specific number, the hash, that, when combined with the block data, results in a value that is less than a target number.
In other words, miners use proof of work to adjust the nonce value until a hash is obtained that meets the specified difficulty requirements.
All right, and down the bottom here, we got this pretty picture. The miners, the nodes working to maintain and update the ledger, gather all the latest transaction data. So they're busy making those hashes and submitting them to see if they answer the question. They group it all together in a block to add to the chain. So these are the blocks that they're going to suggest. Then they calculate a hash for that block. They run all the data through an algorithm that spits out a unique string. Then they do it again and again. They're looking for a valid hash, one that begins with a long string of zeros. The first miner to find one wins newly created Bitcoin, and their block is added to the blockchain. This hash assures no one tampers with the ledger by changing a single number or letter anywhere in the chain. Will make every hash for every subsequent block unrecognizably different, at which other nodes will reject the compromised ledger. Number 6, the miner who finds the correct hash broadcasts it to the network, and the other miners check the solution to verify that it is indeed correct. If the solution is verified, the block is added to the blockchain.
The mined block is broadcasted to the network for verification, and once it is verified by other miners, the consensus is reached among the network. The block is added to the blockchain as the last block in the chain.
So my first Bitcoin, the QR code there, they've actually provided a link to this very specific block. And this is a website. The link is in the description down below, where I've even put the link to this specific block in. So you can come here and you can literally read the information that's inside the block. And you'll even see here they've got the transactions that were inside, the hashes for the transactions that were inside the block. And the Coinbase transaction in hex, so this is the payout that people received. The block header, which had like the block header is basically all this information up top here. Wait, is it?
So
no.
this
Yeah, sorry, yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
So that's the block header information there. But this is the actual hex data. So hex is a computer language to encode it all. And then the block information here tells us block height is where this block sits in the total list, and the block depth. Also more data on that. The difficulty is how hard it was to mine it. The physical size, so 1.2 megabytes. Weight, I'm not actually 100% sure. And transactions, it's holding 4 transactions. All right.
Okay.
Let's switch back to the diploma. Number 8. The miner who successfully mined the block is rewarded with newly minted Bitcoin from the Coinbase transaction and the transaction fees from the included transactions. The new block becomes part of the immutable and transparent record of all transactions on the blockchain. The block hash and the information in it is used to update the blockchain, and the process starts again with the next block. So we now have a class exercise, which we're going to load another web page, and we're going to take a look at the data together. So this QR code actually loads this web page, and the web page is down in the description. So it asks a number of questions, and we're going to read the questions out as we go through. So this web page actually loads in Japanese. We have a language translation plugin installed, and we've translated it to English. And so the first question is, how many transactions were included in that block? What was the last mined block? So the Genesis is the first block.
So it'll be there.
Yep. And then we can see the numbers along the bottom here: 132, 133, 134, 135, 136, 137. And we can see that this is the latest block. So we're going to click on that, and it will expand it for us, and we'll get some information. And we're going to translate that to English because it's easier for us to read. So 787,137. And then we have, this is the hash. All right. So, well, yep.
Okay, so how many transactions were included in that block?
Okay. So let's see if we can figure out how many transactions were included.
Number of transactions, 2,821.
Okay. So we looked at a block earlier that had 4,000 transactions in it. So for this one to have 2,800, either the network was quiet or they had a number of transactions that had a lot of data inside them. The next question, what is the total value traded in Bitcoin? So the total value of the transactions that are inside this block.
3,000.
Yeah, I believe it's probably this one here. So it's saying that there's 3,757 Bitcoin worth of transactions inside this block. The next question, what is the size in megabytes of the block? So they've got a size here, but it's in kilobytes. But basically, a megabyte becomes 1,000. So it's 1.5 megabytes of size. How many zeros does the nonce have of the start of the block? I don't even know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, maybe, if I counted that right. And how much did the miner earn in total? This is actually an interesting question. So every block is worth 6.25 BTC every 10 minutes. But we'll see here, this is the Coinbase transaction. Well, it's not the Coinbase transaction, but this is actually the total amount that they received. So the Coinbase would have included the 6.25, and then they've also received the mining fees. So they've also received another 0.25 BTC for mining this block. So they've actually ended up with 6.5 BTC, including the fees for mining this block. And what was the total value of fees received by the miner? So we just answered that by figuring out what did they earn in total. And choose one of the highest value transactions in the block. How many BTC wallets did the amount get distributed to? So what they're saying is to scroll down this list down here and look, here's somebody with 4.7 BTC. Let's see if we can find something with more. We saw, what did we see earlier? 1,000?
1,000 BTC, yeah.
Earlier today, we saw 1,000. There's one with 9. Let's see if we can find a big one. There's 20 and 21. I like the 21. That's pretty clever. All right, let's go with the 21 because that's how we go. So we can see briefly that it has 2 inputs and it has 50 outputs. So with a transaction like this, it's possible that someone has batched a whole heap of transactions for a service. Who knows what the service is? But you can quickly see the next one was 1 input, 59 outputs. Let's find that 9 BTC. Okay, so this 9 BTC, it's got 1 input and 2 outputs. So it was most likely a single transaction to somebody and they pay, I'm just guessing, maybe they paid 1.2 BTC to somebody and they got change of 7.7. And if you would like to try and break that down further, was it last week?
Yep.
We looked at how to break down that and actually understand that information.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to leave that there.
Yep.
We're going to move to the next section in the diploma. Let's do it. So we just answered all the questions in this exercise.
Right. A summary of the transaction from start to finish. So a user wants to send some Bitcoin to another user. They create a transaction with the details of the send, including the amount of Bitcoin being sent, the sender's address, and the receiver's address. The user then uses their private key to encrypt the transaction. This private key is like a secret code that only the user knows, and it is used to prove that the user is who they say they are. The encrypted transaction is broadcasted to the network of the Bitcoin nodes.
Right. So with this diagram is basically visualizing what's going on here. We've got Bob paying Robert, and then you take the transaction data, you put it inside the mempool effectively, which collects a whole heap of different transactions. And then those transactions are going to be put into a block by the miner, and the miner is going to work on them, trying to do the proof of work. When it gets submitted to the blockchain, it gets validated and it's confirmed.
And then it goes through and becomes the next block in the chain. Okay, number 4, the nodes verify the transaction using the sender's public key, which is available on the blockchain. They check that the signature is valid and the sender has enough Bitcoin to complete the transaction. 5, the nodes then group the verified transactions into a block. The block is then broadcasted to the network of Bitcoin miners. Miners use a complex mathematical algorithm to solve a puzzle, which is called mining. Once the puzzle is solved, it is added to the blockchain and the block is added to the chain. Once the block is added to the blockchain, the transaction is considered complete and the receiver can access the Bitcoin using their own private keys.
Okay, I noticed we've frozen. So it's okay, I'm just going to fix it. But I see we've got a question from Hector. Welcome, Hector. Thanks for coming along. We come back and visit. Like if you can afford to do that, I'm sure you will. You've probably maybe got family here that you can come and visit. I think it's worth it. I think it would be worth coming to say hello to your family and seeing what's going on. I mean, if you're in Virginia, it's not a long trip from the United States down. And I think family would be stoked to see you down here. Consider it. I think the world has changed since, El Salvador, or the world has, but El Salvador has changed a lot since 1985. So come down. See it. All right. In summary, the sender creates and encrypts the transaction with their private key. The nodes verify the transaction. UTXOs using the sender's public key, and the miners add the verified transaction to the blockchain. The receiver can then access the Bitcoin using their private key. Once a block is mined, all the transactions included in it are considered confirmed, and the UTXOs used as inputs in these transactions are considered spent and will not be used again. Don't trust, verify. In the world of Bitcoin, this will be changed in the next version, so don't pay attention to that. In the world of Bitcoin, the phrase don't trust, verify is a reminder to always verify transactions yourself rather than relying on others, such as centralized authority or intermediary. The Bitcoin network is made up of a decentralized network of nodes, which allows users to verify transactions on their own. I'm just going to highlight why, like, some people may be like, yeah, but it's the same, but it's not. The reason it's not is because a lot of these other chains are privately owned. The owners have the keys and they're identifiable. They can roll these chains back if they want to. And this don't trust, verify doesn't mean anything if the owners can go and roll them back. When a government brings out a central bank digital currency, commonly called a CBDC, there's no way you're going to be able to trust and verify it. So this is why the term cryptocurrency is not going to be used here. It's going to be Bitcoin, because it is significantly different and it's not true for all cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin is the one. However, there are scenarios that can cause transactions to be reversed, such as double spending, orphan blocks, and reorganization. To increase the security of transactions, it is recommended to wait for 6 confirmations or 6 blocks containing the specific transaction before considering it final. The more confirmations a transaction has, the more secure it becomes, as the likelihood of it being reversed decreases. The number of confirmations needed may vary depending on the use case and desired level of security. Double spending. In a double spend attack, a malicious actor attempts to spend the same Bitcoin twice by manipulating the network to accept their second spending of the same Bitcoin as valid. If a miner or group of miners controlling more than 50% of the network's hashing power, known as a 51% attack, confirm a double spend transaction, it could be added to a block and considered valid, effectively reversing the original transaction. Just a point of interest this week, it was announced that Russia is one of the largest, has some of the largest orders for mining equipment at the moment. So they're not publicizing it, but it's come out that they are busy buying hashing power for their mining. And there's a really good video by Andreas Antonopoulos, which he talks about a entity who could get 51% or more of mining power. They can only do one block, and then they have to try and keep that 51% for the next block and the next block and the next block. And it's actually incredibly huge and powerful to be able to try and do that. If somebody saw a 51% attack, then the network would actually respond to that, and they would restructure themselves to try and stop it. Anyway, I'm going down a path. Orphaned blocks. When 2 miners find a new block at the same time, the network may temporarily accept both. When one of the blocks is later extended by additional blocks, the network will recognize this chain as the main chain, and the other block will become an orphan, no longer part of the main blockchain. The transactions included in the orphaned block are not lost and will be included in a later block if they remain valid.
An orphaned block in Bitcoin is a valid block that is not included in the longest chain, which is considered the main chain.
Reorganization. This could be, I just realized I got that open. This could theoretically happen if a new block were added to the blockchain and it causes the existing chain to be replaced by a different one. if a transaction was included in a block that is no longer on the main chain, it would be considered invalid and the transaction would be reversed. And I think that all they're demonstrating here is confirmation numbers of certain blocks. You've got 2 different amounts, 2 different transaction numbers, different confirmations. I'm not exactly sure what they're trying to demonstrate there. This class exercise, we're not going to do it. It's not really, it's not great for this style of format. It's very similar to some of the other ones where they talk about going through, doing the transactions manually. It's probably a lot of fun if you've got 20 people in a class and you sit down and you go through it, but we're not going to do that. So that's basically it, because we've basically hit 1 hour of reading for another week. Thank you very much for sticking through this with us. We really appreciate that you guys are doing this. John, you have a great question there. I need to improve my knowledge and understanding of Satoshi and the Genesis block, as he has 1 million coins that's connected to the Genesis block, right? So yeah, there is a wallet with the original 1 million that have been mined. I don't know the nitty gritty. I just know the general sort of gist of it. And the theory is there's no way to prove it, but the theory is the keys are gone with Satoshi. Would be there's no way to prove that it can't be accessed, but yeah, it's an interesting discussion. I guess it adds mystery to the whole thing, but yeah, I don't know how you go and decide if that block is or isn't going to ever be moved, or the coins inside the wallet are ever going to be moved, would be a more accurate thing to say. It's an interesting discussion. All right. We are going to say thank you to the awesome partners that joined us, and I'm going to quickly switch over to this, which is frozen. So let's unfreeze that for a moment. Ta-da! Here we go. Seed Signer, these guys are awesome hardware device, open source. The 3D printed if you want, just order your own. You don't even have to buy it from these guys. You can actually just basically download and make this yourself if you want to. But we bought one because I don't have a 3D printer and it was just easier. Then the crypto tag. This is seed phrase, and seed saver. They got multiple devices worth checking out, work with multiple wallets, and it's a cool little device which is indestructible. Then we have the Shift Crypto hardware wallet, and they got Bitbox 02, which is a Bitcoin specific device. Again, it's Swiss made. They've got open source software running on this beastie. Works with a number of your favorite wallets. They've even got a comparison table down here to compare to a couple of other very popular wallets. So if you're interested in getting something that is feature rich.
We've got one of those coming soon.
Oh, do we?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
So that's going to be great. So we'll have to do some little videos on getting them set up and how they work.
I think that one was actually a kind gift for us, which is awesome. We appreciate that from these guys. Alrighty, and if you want to go back and watch any of these, go to the YouTube playlist and you can see it. There was also a link to these guys on our website if you want to buy any of these devices or check them out some more. If you'd like to win one, make sure you are in this form on the right-hand side at the top of our website, because that is how you can win one of these cool devices to take home. They are going to ship international. Please like and share the video if you can. Just having a quick look. Okay, no new questions. Please like and share the video. It will help other people see it. We've also been on Rumble tonight. So there's 2 places for all of this backed up. And that's pretty much it. I mean, if you guys have any questions, quickly throw them in there now, because that's pretty much it. Yeah. So I'm going to say, this is a My First Bitcoin t-shirt. I really like it because it says I love Bitcoin El Salvador. But even though I'm just being silly, my first Bitcoin team, they have a meetup tomorrow.
Right.
They do one a month. So if you're ever coming to El Salvador, because you're going to come to El Salvador, Bitcoin country, just to visit and check it out because you want to verify, make sure you try and come when they have a meetup on. We always advertise it on our newsletter, which goes out every week, just to remind everybody of the awesome things that are happening in El Salvador. And Friday this week, we've also got the Bitcoin Beach meetup, which is going to be awesome. And coming up in May, we've got a new meetup, which may become a regular thing, which is more around food, which we're pretty excited about. And that's going to be hosted, well, it's hosted by Casa del Bitcoin, but it's going to be done by a group called Sound Food, which is all about basically healthy food and going back to basics, which is really exciting. And that we're hoping that'll become a regular meetup.
Yep.
So we do love to eat great food. All right. Again, no new questions in the chat. We really appreciate you guys coming along. Thank you very much. It's been awesome. John, thank you for putting comments in the Rumble chat. We really appreciate you, mate. It's good. We need to do a one-on-one call soon just to catch up. Thank you. Have a great night. Have a great week. And learn something new. Go zap somebody. Zap somebody some sats because why not? Liam, thank you guys. Goodbye, everyone, and have a sexy and fulfilling day. You guys are funny.
See ya.